If you all
Yes, I got one.
if you all will indulge for a moment. So, maybe the next time Dennis comes back, he'll tell us the bad news. But could we just pretend for a second that the only issue on the table is whether we want to join our system with the county system? Are there efficiencies? Are there advantages that we see? So before we even talk about the money part, does anybody have a significant feeling one way or the other? You said definitely you were in favor of putting the two systems together. Is anybody adamantly opposed, moderately opposed?
I'm still gathering information and facts before I make my decision.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the worst case scenario as far as I'm concerned, so we gotta see what our information is from the city.
That's why I would like to just gather more information.
Are you talking about money information or the
Money,
use system?
ridership, collecting the whole deal,
Okay.
If we're running it, we should be able to get information about it, you know what I mean?
Right, I think there's still some
You
things
can
that
compare
are,
their report to what they're looking for, and
Mhm.
I think they're too intertwined to really feel comfortable. I feel comfortable with answering your question.
Mhm. Well, I think there's some just purely intellectual reasons why it makes sense to combine the two. Duplication of services, and greater use of routes, things like that. So, but okay, so,
well, the biggest drawback is you have no control if someone else runs it. So you gotta take that into consideration also. And if who's running it, main concern is ridership,
mhm.
and there's more ridership somewhere else, then you're not gonna get all the buses you might be getting now with nobody on them, very few people on them. I mean, you have to look and see
Mhm.
if you wanna trade that away for a route that's gonna pick up more riders. You know what I mean? So you gotta weigh them.
But we've already heard that there are routes where there are no riders on a day, from other sources, not
But
just.
there could be one or two that need it, and what are you gonna do about that? You know what I mean? And it could be handicap, they said there's a lot of people like that have special needs that you need to get to and things. So you have to look at all of it at once.
Sure.
So, two questions. So two questions. Is this the first time that the council is hearing about this issue with the city transit system? First question. Second question is, has the city ever undertaken its own study as far as the transportation needs of the city?
First one's back, like you said, they had some public hearings on it to discuss the route, what the public liked about it, the routes, et cetera, and they gathered, that was part of their survey, if you want to say, their project, they're gathering information to see what the ridership was, and that's where they got some of their figures of, who's being picked up where people want a bus route, et cetera, and matching up what we currently have. And I don't know anything about the second part of the question.
well, this is the first time I've heard about like deficiencies that jeopardize some grant money, that type of stuff that, things that where we have deficiencies that are, this is the first we've really heard that.
Yeah, we didn't hear it all. I just heard
That we're gonna lose $1 million?
Yeah, that's the first I've heard that one.
Yeah.
But-
Well, it sounded like we would lose $1 million, but then it sounded like there's sources where we get virtually all of it. So
Yeah.
that's when you pay close attention.
That's
Well,
why.
that's what I'm saying.
That's why we
That's
have to
money.
sit down and have a discussion.
$550,000 for a bus, well, maybe you can use that $450 to pay, that kind of
Right.
stuff. That's what we need our own discussion.
So, but some of the things that he was pointing to about just the small operating staff that we have, a lot of what they're dealing with is those day-to-day operations. And so we've had some concerns for quite a while about how the management overall has been undertaken. So some of it was the numbers that he was giving us in terms of deficiencies relating to federal grants, federal money, those sorts of things, those specific figures were new. Our concerns about the system, we've had this for a while.
Also, I still think there's some money that overlaps grant-wise. Is that true, like the mechanics and all that? Isn't there some money that's still
That would be something. we
part
have to have
of
John.
DPW, part of the,
you know,
there's
yeah,
stuff
look
that
at
we,
it.
if we lose that, do we lose
They're
money?
talking about the bus wash, which is now the DPW wash and the bus wash, that we would all of a sudden be washing the buses and, have no other involvement, So there's a lot of things you gotta
Right.
look at, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was interesting too.
So,
I think a better question is not whether everybody's for it or against it. I think it's too early. I think we need to know if everybody's open to investigating the possibility, and then we'll go through all the proper channels and investigations.
Sure.
And then we'll make a decision whether you're for or against it.
How do we go about acting on these 2 grants that we need to raise? I mean, that's what I'm concerned about, getting that money. I don't wanna lose that
Well,
money.
part of it, he kept talking about the city has done this and that, so I want to make sure that he's talking about the mayor. Is that what he means when he says the city has done this and that? Be aware too, there's a question of who writes those grants, because if our grant folks do
We have
that,
not
or is that a
typically had-
specialized kind of grant that we have to have somebody else to do?
The bus department has typically done their own applications, their own applications.
Would that be something that you would be interested in doing? Since they haven't been doing it.
It's a
But
matter
that's
of
what he
capacity,
said.
not
That's what he
interest.
said. We gotta find out what you mean.
Right.
And that's why we need to set up a
Right.
meeting, you know, with all these parties that can give us these answers, the mayor, the comptroller, and, you know, I'm assuming it's Tony.
Yeah.
Tony, you know, corp counsel has to sit in there and say, we can do this. You know, these would be the questions that we had if we did it. You know, we need to have those people sitting down.
You know, in budgetary, you know, staffing levels at the transit, that's, you know, budget. And you wanna hire another person, that increases their budget. We're already paying, what, 190, 200 some thousand? So that goes up to 300,000. So you gotta weigh it all out, you know, and see what makes sense.
Our next regularly scheduled committee meeting will be finance. So do we want to invite the mayor and the comptroller to come and discuss this with us then? Do we want to have an earlier special meeting?
I think we need to find out about these grants. If this is true that we're on the verge of losing a boatload of
I
money
mean, a
here,
phone
then
call do that, I'm sure if he received that same report that we received,
I think we
they're
can do a
working.
special meeting,
I
because
mean, there's no way they're not
I
working.
don't think
No,
it should
we
be
wanna
left
make
up to
sure.
one committee.
6:30.
Well, we could have everybody come to the committee meeting for that part, but yeah, so if people feel like we need to have an earlier meeting than that, I'll look into setting it up.
Yeah, we can send a communication and have it go to finance, for sure. I mean,
Yeah, I
what's
think
the
we
worst
should.
I
that
mean,
can happen? We
the
don't have enough
finance meeting's
information.
in a week and 2 days,
Yeah, it's not
so
bad.
it's not that,
It's not that
that's
far
not
off.
that far off.
But you need to make sure that we're sitting here, and that's gonna take them a lot of the time.
But
We're gonna have
the
so many
comptroller will
questions.
already be at that meeting, so it's a
Mhm.
question of whether we have the mayor there.
You have time for a special meeting.
And
And we can do a special meeting.
Okay, well, the other thing is we can ask the mayor and see if he agrees
Exactly. We can
with
schedule
the
it.
need, or is it we can 2 days?
John
ahead?
Tui,
Correct.
I mean, I think we need to sit down with the mayor, maybe some of those people, the questions whether we do it within finance or as a special meeting. But one thing's for sure, it's gonna head to finance pretty quickly.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it just makes for a long finance meeting.
Yeah, that's.
Because this is not a quick subject.
all right, then, any other issues relating to Dennis's presentation there?
Are we agreeing we're gonna put this in the next finance meeting or what?
Well, I'm gonna talk to the mayor, I'll call him tomorrow, and then, and make sure, or, you know, sound him out to see what he thinks about, whether we need to meet before a week and 2 days from now. And if he agrees, then we'll set something up. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Other than that, what are y'all doing this weekend?
I actually will probably have to go out of town for a few days, but I won't know probably until tomorrow.
This- We're not gonna meet on the weekend.
No, I know, it may be this weekend,
Oh,
so, but I'll
Oh,
let you
right,
know,
yes.
yeah, so it's like,
Right, well, if you need to go, I know what you're talking about, that comes first.
Can we
you
come
might
with
have to cancel.
You don't wanna come.
You don't wanna go.
you know?
All right. We got a lot of.
All right, okay, so let's move on to the legislation list. Everybody ready? Some of these, like I said, we'll be able to move through fairly quickly. Others, we will want to spend a little bit of time on. So, number 50, approval for updating the city's investment policy for the year. Any issues, questions, concerns relating to that one?
Yeah, there were two, this related to just two specific items in changing the investment options, and, you know, this gets rather detailed, but one is section 8, description of depositories, modified, you know, the boundless partition between about 8 banks. And item 10, there's a lot of verbiage there on permitted investments. Modified, the repurchase agreements in accordance with investment guidelines, et cetera, goes on and on. It's rather detailed. I think it's been
Every
reviewed.
year, right?
Well, the crucial,
That comes up every year. So,
So,
the crucial thing was adding that other source of investing, New York State fund, right?
yeah,
And
right.
so this is a standard municipal fund that other municipalities have invested in that we haven't taken advantage of before. So the rates you get are better there than at commercial banks and that sort of thing. So, any questions on that, concerns?
I don't have any problem with it. I don't think John does, Tom P. does either. I think we should move on.
All right, so we're good on that one. Number 51 then. This is authorizing the Kingston Housing Authority to adjust starting salaries.
Captain Maloney believes that a couple of positions should be upped in order to be more competitive. Housing project manager starting salary range, go from 68 to 72, and assistant housing project manager from 38 to 42,000.
But this doesn't affect our budget, right?
No,
So this is just giving them permission to do this with their funds, not with city
Correct.
funds. All right. Anybody?
Well, it's just that the city has like an overall authority of the housing authority to
In regard to
review
those
and
salaries.
authorize all pay increases or salaries or whatever.
Right, and so this
Don't-
salary range is
We haven't
standard.
always done that, but now we're trying to
Right,
follow them.
and we would step in if it was like $1.8 million.
I would take that job.
I was just gonna reply.
Well, a lot of people would apply, yes. All right, so we're good with that one,
Hang on, there's no
52?
negotiation on that contract? They just raise their own salaries?
No,
No, it's not their own salary.
these
This
are
is-
positions
Right?
that are gonna become vacant. And the individual that has a position already is probably making more than that because they've been there longer. So this is a range that they figure that position as a starting
Okay,
position where
thank
they
you.
work.
Thank you.
We don't have any say, we just.
All right.
Thank you.
52, execution of an amended New York Liquid Asset Fund Municipal Cooperation Agreement.
This is to provide for basically cooperative temporary investments of public funds between municipal organizations, school districts, fire districts. You know, it's a way to pool monies and, you know, exact bigger returns, no financial impact. I think we should go with it.
Any objections to that one? Concerns? All right. 53, wait, it's not on the list here.
It's to expend funds in the first instance for the lead service line replacement. It's a grant from the Department of Health for replacement of lead and water service lines to city residences. Financial impact is zero. It's a grant of $544,745, no matching funding requirements. We want to spend funds in the first instance. I can't see why this would be a problem.
I just had a question, because I wasn't there for finance, I was out of town, but is this for all the city residents?
No. The city residents, I believe, would have to apply for the pipe to be put in.
Now, this is my understanding. just saying that.
Oh,
My understanding is there's 90, there's money available for 90 new services for individual houses. And they're gonna earmark it for Henry Street, I believe, because they're gonna be redoing Henry Street, so. And they're pretty much gauging it on the age of the structure. So at a certain time, I think it was before 19 something or other, there's a good possibility that has a lead tap and service coming to that property.
It's kind of the tip of the iceberg, because that's just gonna,
Yeah,
it's gonna help a little bit, but I mean. if we-
I mean, I have a little problem because I'm a plumber, of course, I'm out, and I see a lot of areas where the person might have a lead service, but he probably won't go all the way, because usually a lot of times after the lead, they tie him with galvanized or something. The galvanized went bad, so they replaced the galvanized with copper, and they don't go to the street because it's much more expensive. But there's no, you know, if you're putting it on the designated area, then you can't help this person out. But there is emergency funding, but that's based on income, so that kind of alleviates them. And my way of thinking, just my way of thinking, is if you looked at it and they had lead service and they did not have any children or something, I would be more, you know, thinking about, well, maybe we should use that for some houses that do have children and replace those. But this makes it a lot easier and cleaner to just do it and not worry about it. So maybe when they get going.
Well, there's also gonna be construction in that area with the sidewalks. And
Well, that's why they're gonna do it, they're only tearing it up once instead of multiple times.
But it's $500,000, which is no matching requirements, and yeah, there are specific requirements and regulations governing the expenditures of these funds, you know.
I mean, anytime you get let out, that's why you get that, you know, and
Okay. All right, number 54. This is bond ordinance in the sum of $150,000.
115.
115, sorry, for the purchase of a replacement server, data storage, and bodywork cameras for the Kingston Police Department. Did you hear the answers that the
I
chief?
heard some of the answers, but, and thank you for answering them, but why now? That was I had some questions there. Why now? Did he answer that?
Yeah.
I think Bill had told me that he would answer questions there.
Storage issue.
Cause of storage issue?
Well, no, there's a question that they have to have storage for these things. So, but getting more of them, several things came together. There was a report that came in that suggested that they have more because of the way that these, first of all, it takes a long time to download the images on them.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to have everybody who's, not just in the patrol car, but everybody who's at work on a given shift to have one.
Okay.
So that's why they need more of them. Then also, some funds came available. There was another thing that occurred so that it's kind of like the stars aligned. So they didn't have it in the capital plan before. They were wanting to do it, but then these other things aligned, and they said, I could look it up.
And that's why it's not in their budget?
That's right.
How much was this a piece? I thought Bill said, didn't somebody say?
Well,
it was
the
1,000?
cameras are a minimal part.
9,000
9,000.
or 16,000.
Yeah, total, yeah.
but see, now it'll be 32, just about everyone on duty will have it.
And the
Well, I don't
storage
know.
issue was a state mandate where they had to hold it for, what, 180 days?
And they're
I
pretty
don't know,
much
long period of time.
they're on all the time
Mm-hmm.
for 90 seconds.
Okay.
So if you come to an incident, you have to press it to continue to stay on, otherwise it keeps rotating and, you know, you're racing the last 90 seconds. And one day, you have to retain it for 180 days in storage. So that's why the storage fees this week is so large, 32 cameras, you know, 180 days for one shift.
So once they,
It's a lot
one
of-
shift,
3
what they
shifts.
have that, it has to stay somehow in 180 days, not back to camera, but what they recorded. for that.
Right.
All right, I just was, you know,
So it's-
my concern was why was in this originally put in the capital project or in the budget? And then the question was answered, they didn't know that they needed this. Regulation says that they have to have it for 180 days.
And it's kind of ongoing with the police department and the chief's discussion, where, you know, they're trying to figure out which is the best policy for them to use, you know, checking with all the other different municipalities and what they use, and, you know, what kind of cameras to get, you know, where they locate, because if they're on here and you're going like this, looking at something, the camera's still sticking out there, you know, so they're trying to figure out the best coverage of ones that they can buy. It's all kind of new.
Okay, thank you, that's all my question. All right.
Anybody else got concerns with that one?
And I see on this bond ordinance, it says it's a 5 years.
55 is the bond ordinance.
So I'm saying this is a life expectancy, 5 years.
20,000 a year about coming back, right?
Okay.
All right, anybody else? So 54 and 55 is the bond ordinance for it. So 56, adoption of bond ordinance in the sum of $768,000 the completion of City Hall tower repairs and roof replacement. Concerns, issues, questions?
It's 25 years life expectancy for a roof.
25 to 30, yeah. So we're beyond the.
I'm just saying from our house, I guess.
Mine at home is probably 35, so.
All right.
Has to do with the inclines.
All right.
Steeper, longer,
Right.
flatter.
This is flat.
Not so good.
It's flat.
Oh, yeah, up there, it's flat.
Was flat, now it's.
Zigzag.
All right, so everybody's good on that one. 57 is the bond authorizing for the payment, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I assume everyone's good with that one. Then, now we have this whole series of recommendations to approve modifications to various budgets in order to close the books in 2017.
Well, this
Not
first one-
52, 58 is.
This first one, 58, is for the 2018 Parks and Recreation budget.
Sorry, my arrow went too high. Thank you.
It's a grant to, from New York State Parks and Recreation, $62,960, of which there's an equivalent amount of match, which will come from in-kind donation and staff time. So it's the Kingston Organic Waste Management Plant grant. Reimbursement comes from the New York State DEC grant.
So zero impact.
Yeah, zero impact, yeah, zero impact, yes.
Questions, concerns, issues? So I'm seeing everyone's good with that one.
Now we're going.
Now, we're
Now-
on the 2017 budget approvals.
Now we're balancing last year. Police department balance of 330.
So we're gonna go through each one individually,
Mine,
or,
I don't see the calls for it. Unless somebody has a specific question about one. I was
Just
just
read the
saying.
number, if anybody has a problem,
Right.
ask, if not, go to the next.
Yeah, there's one, we go through 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64,
All the way to 76.
Can we vote as a block tomorrow?
65,
no, I think we have to vote, wouldn't we have to vote separately on each of these tomorrow?
Yeah, you could as well.
65.
We can do it all as a block.
66,
Yeah, even if it has no financial.
67, 68, 69. They're either zero financial impact or we're actually putting money back into the contingency.
And you know, not for anything, but you should,
Huh?
not for anything, but you should keep track of this, because when you do the budget next year, these accounts have extra revenue in them, so they take it from, so it might be something you can look at. when
Right.
you do the budget.
Correct.
Continuing on up to 69, 70,
Maybe we don't need to extend that much.
71, and 72, and 73, and 74, and 75, 76, 77,
No,
no,
77 is 2000.
70,
After 76.
75 is what?
76 is the last one.
Yeah, 76 is the last one, right. So they're all balanced in 2017, zero impact or putting money into various contingencies, and in some cases, a lot of money into contingencies.
66 is actually the only one that does have a true financial.
Yeah, I knew there were, I thought
Which
there were,
one?
I thought there were two.
66, Corp Council.
I thought there were two. Maybe not.
Right, they were taking money out of
Consultants might
contingency.
know those lawsuits.
So that, we should,
About $15,000.
shouldn't we do the ones
You
that
know what I
are,
mean?
Or is that for litigation?
shouldn't we do the ones that are going one way or the other separately, instead of blocking all of them?
When you meet tomorrow or 10?
Yeah, I mean,
All
we
right.
vote in a block, the ones that there's no
All
financial
right,
impact, that's one thing, but.
59,
The ones that are
I'll just go
either
through,
going in or-
59, zero impact. 60, zero impact. 61, zero impact. 62, zero impact. 63, zero impact.
Coming with a 65.
64, zero impact. And 65, also zero impact.
66 is.
66 is from Corp Council, a need for funds for litigation. The impact is a $15,217 withdrawal from the contingency.
So are you concerned about that specific one? And your legal bills?
67 is a lot of puts and takes, but zero impact for DPW. 68, small stuff for information technology.
Zero impact.
Zero impact, but the amount of monies is $4,000. The fire department budget is also zero impact. Transfers between fire, building safety, and landmarks, $130,000, but zero impact. 70 is various accounts from the city controller, mainly city bus planning, deeds, state aid, economic development, civil service, engineering. Most of it's from the bus. $28,000, around 19, but it sums to $100,000 in and out, zero impact. Number 71, Parks and Recreation, $140,000, lots of puts and takes, $140,000, zero impact.
72, that's a good one.
72 is the city controller, yeah, this is one where there's an overage, favorable variance in insurance, mostly dental and hospital, $250,000
There goes the bus.
put into contingency. Number 70, so that's a financial impact, but it's a very positive one. Number 73, general fund budget of, total amount, zero impact is $150,000, but of that, $138,000 is a positive inflow into the contingency, mainly as a result of savings out of New York State retirements. Okay. Number 74, again, there's a positive impact, $80,000 transfers in and out, but into the contingency, into the sewer fund contingency is $50,000. I think we're all in favor of that.
Yes, indeed.
Number 75, again, plus a credit into the sewer fund, sewer contingency, $19,733. Some pretty big puts and takes, but the net is $19,733 into the contingency. Number 76, wastewater treatment facility. Yeah,
right?
this one
Taking out a contingency.
involves a financial impact from contingency, $59,000 into consultants.
Ashland?
So this is a financial impact. It can't be plus.
No, it's
That's
not.
not plus.
It's negative, yeah.
Yeah.
From contingency, $59,322.57 into consultants. Yeah, I don't recall.
Legal,
Hmm?
legal
Legal, the
litigation.
litigation for the, Ashland,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Okay, number Number 77, we had people here speaking about this last time, it's $22,000 for hire consulting firm. Coming out of the contingency for what? Update the sewer use ordinance and industrial tree treatment program, which is several years in arrears.
Federal
And
requirements.
if we don't do it, they're gonna get on our tail to get it done.
Okay, so just so I know, we're out of 217, now we're into 218, right?
Correct. So
Yeah, we're
in
back.
relation to 2017, anybody have any
Back in.
issues, concerns with those movements of money?
Yeah, we're back.
Do you-
Close the books?
Do you have a total number of how much is going back in the contingency
I
there?
got 371, 410, 43 cents.
Based on what we just
Going
did.
back in.
But is
Just
that,
You didn't have the
some
So I don't
is
think
sewer
that's
and
the
some
point.
is general, so did you split sewer and general?
Right, that would be
Because
going,
they're different.
is that the total end of it though, Doug, do you know, or?
I haven't added it up.
Okay, so he probably might give you information that more is going back in to the general.
You mean-
Yeah,
Or
there's
there's
a lot more
more
going in.
Yeah, you know.
What that number, because one is a
I mean,
quarter
even if they
million
didn't
dollars.
spend it, it would go back in, it would have to be in, used for paying a minus, the plus would just go into general.
I think that's what he said it was.
Yeah, this is it.
So this is it?
Yeah.
It's hugely positive.
Oh, okay, so,
But what the,
wait, I'm reading.
This is
Yeah,
it,
I
right?
didn't separate out the sewer.
This is it, this
I
is
was
the
just-
final
That was just my own.
on this, 2017 is closing out.
Yeah.
This is
now
what-
we're back, we're into 2018.
John said at the last meeting that
Be nice to
he's
know that
gonna
number.
do the,
Yeah,
he's
can
gonna
we-
do the wrap-up at the next finance meeting, but he said,
But will we be able to know that number before tomorrow? Like 2017, that's why I think we're all.
That'd be nice to know that number.
You have to call John.
he said it looks very good, and for 2017, there were a lot of really good things he's gonna share at the next finance meeting when he wraps it all up.
I think they say he's also gonna bring a bottle of champagne.
No, you can't, sit in firm, you can't drink, come on.
7 up.
You gonna call?
I've been calling my mistake.
Okay, just a minute.
Number 77,
Well, let's make, so everybody's,
We use money as a contingency for collaborative fund balance for the 17 budget.
Okay, all right. Keep going.
okay, so everybody's good otherwise on 2017 budget? Okay, now the
2018, we're back there. Resolution 77 was to hire a consulting firm that was update our industrial tree treatment contracted services.
You started it. He finished.
I'm sorry, to update the sewer use ordinance and industrial tree treatment program, the ITP.
Right, this is something that the federal government is requiring us to do. We're behind schedule on it.
Coming from the sewer contingent.
All right, so you're gonna go on that one?
Okay, number 78 is a grant of $10,000, a grant from, who's that from?
National League of
National
Cities.
Leadership and Community no, DEC, New York State DEC, no match, $10,000. So it's going to contracted services and other equipment, but for Kevin Gilford, at zero financial impact. And primarily it's going, it's associated with the zoo, the nature center. Okay.
All right, so everybody good with that, 78? Questions, concerns? All right.
79 is coming from Corp Council, a reversal of the tax bill for 185 Fairview Avenue, total amount of $1,293.45.
Only thing on that, on the actual committee report, it doesn't show that in the financial impact area. So I'm not sure if it has to be on there or not for, on the actual committee report.
That would be a plus impact, right?
So no,
Right.
it's
You
getting
take
back.
money out, you give it back.
Wait, authorizing the reversal of a levy
Give them the money back.
Because,
Yeah, why do we-
Yeah.
why are you reversing it?
She was in
Improperly assessed.
Yes.
She was what?
We're reversing it because it was improperly
Okay,
assessed.
thank you. Okay, improper. That's what you mean by okay. Okay.
Somebody got it. I sent it.
$1,200, $1,300. Okay, number 80
Jim said later.
is a New York State grant for 200. $252,000, $454. Let's see, this is a grant of $544,744 from the Department of Health for the replacement of lead water service lines.
Now, where will this take place? Do we know what area this is for?
Wait a minute. This grant funding is,
Brennan might know.
Yeah, Brandon can help you there.
Brennan
No,
Doug?
Brandon can
Brennan
help
might
you.
know.
This is
Yeah.
the budget amendment transfer for the grant that you talked about earlier. And it's for Franklin Street, not Henry Street.
Oh, thank you.
Total grant is a 2-year grant, $544,000 and change. So we're coming to you to authorize the transfers so we can expend those funds. For the first year, we'll come back to you next year for the next half.
so you're expending half of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little over half.
Yeah, $252,000, right.
And this is just for the sidewalks on Franklin Street?
No, it's for lead.
The lead
water
sewage.
No, I know, but they're gonna take, when they do it,
So
they're
we
gonna do
have a grant to do street and sidewalk improvements and this lead service line replacement and some housing rehab stuff. So we're gonna focus on that neighborhood first, and if there's any money
Well, you're gonna
left over-
focus on Franklin Street.
That's what I mean, Franklin Street.
Yeah, neighborhood is
No doubt.
Franklin Street.
And,
Neighborhood.
and so we're gonna focus on that street first.
Right.
And then, if there's any money left over, we'll make it available to the rest of the city. And we will be prioritizing children that are tested with elevated blood lead levels.
children that are already tested, and you know they're, wow.
Then how do you find that out?
They actually have to come to us, it's a privacy thing, but Department of Health lets them know that it's available to them.
Oh, okay.
So if they get the lead test, the Department of Health will say, hey, this is something available to you?
They go when they tap the pipes and change it.
Thank you.
And I think that's it on finance.
Yes, that's the. Now we got the resident.
All right, so everybody got that one? 81 is the memorializing resolution. Did everybody get the amended copy that I sent out that has just all the footnotes, all the research?
That's not in there?
It's not this copy, so,
You sent it out?
Here.
you got this, right?
Updated.
Yeah, I sent it to you on Friday.
Okay. Yeah, I
So-
wasn't in the office today. So
Okay.
you want this one changed to reflect those changes?
Yeah, so the text is all the same, it's just it adds footnotes that give the sources of the numbers and so
Oh,
forth.
okay, so that just needs to be added like at the end or something.
Right, or, I mean, right now it's at the bottom, but if you
Yeah.
want to put it at the end, that's
Okay.
fine too. I don't think it matters for you guys.
There's gonna be a lot of whereas. I just had one quick, I had some things in here that I looked at this,
Show up on here.
Rand,
I'm sorry, what?
when I was going through here, and
Uh-huh.
it's a lot of whereas, as I mentioned before, but in the last page there, I have a question, it says prevent our public schools from becoming armed camps.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean by armed camps? I mean, I'm trying to figure out, you're talking about the SRO officers that are in the schools?
No, they're the teachers who've done it.
Yeah.
I just say,
guns
because, you know, when I first read that becoming armed camps, I'm thinking, well, is he stating that the school shouldn't have any of the resource officers or SROs?
No.
We already have
We already
gun
have.
carrying people in our room, in our schools, two at a time sometimes.
Right, that's the SROs. Right.
Correct. That's why I was just making sure that was not armed camps, you weren't
Correct.
stating that, take that out.
Right.
You know, so maybe you might want to say armed teacher, I don't know. armed teachers.
Well, you know, it's, I tried to frame it in such a way that it gives leeway to the people we're addressing.
All right. I'm sorry, go on.
So it's just a general directive there, and I didn't want to get into that kind of specifics for precisely the reason that then there would be all this arguing back and forth. This is just asking them, you know, really think about these things.
And then the other last part, the next bullet, ban the production, sale, and possession of all classes of weapons. And I state, and related equipment such as the, whatever that bump, yeah, that do not serve the specific use of personal protection or sport shooting. I mean, I just was adding that part, and related equipment there. That, I mean, that's the big issue in there, right? That's been the galvanizing, you know, polarizing things that not only be able to just get the guns, but they're getting these other special equipment that they can make a gun that shoots bang, bang, bang too. So I just want to add related equipment, you know, specific equipment that you can put onto any gun that can change it from, let's say, a rifle into a machine gun. All right, so I just thought you might want to include that. And this is the one I see, unless it was in there, ban production. It doesn't say anything about the last page, the second to the last bullet.
This isn't the things we're asking the folks to do.
Yeah.
I do mention that somebody voted against banning bump stocks. One of our representatives in the state level.
Is it in
voted
here?
against this.
But
It's
not,
one of the
not
whereas.
all of the
Whereas
whereas.
clauses.
All right, oh, it is a whereas.
One of the specific, this is what we would like to do.
All right. If it was in there, I didn't see it in there, but as long as it's mentioned in there, but.
So is
That's the only
this,
thing, that's the only thing I noticed.
is this something that you think is important enough to amend this, or is it good enough to go through?
I mean, if you had that related equipment in there somewhere else in there that I didn't see, then you don't need to add it back in there. I mean,
Well, it's in a whereas, so it's not part of a directive that we're offering, but if you want to add that as a directive. But we would need to do that on the floor tomorrow night, or what, Jim?
Yeah, you can, amend.
all right, so I just have to just get up and state that, we'd like to add that
Yeah.
part right there to it.
Yeah, and then the equipment after your weapons.
Okay.
All right, any other questions, concerns, issues with this?
You
That's
got
on the
that,
last
Carla?
page here. So see, it says,
Second to the last.
You got that, Carly?
And related
weapons
equipment.
and related equipment.
So you want me to get up and do this? Is that right?
Has this been, how have you promoted this or marketed this, or has this been put out to the general public at all? How has it been, can you just explain the ways that you've done this?
There's a newspaper article about it a month ago or so.
Yeah,
Talking about how it's coming out. There's been a couple of newspaper articles since then.
okay.
We put it out via Facebook. I know that other people have been talking to lots of people about it. So in a way, this has probably been advertised more than a lot of the things that actually goes through the council.
And there's a student group that have been paying very close attention to this. They also
Actually, it's been very
this,
receptive.
this resolution, and students are actually reading through this. So there's a couple led by students at Kingston High School.
So there's also been two articles now in the Kingston Times about it. So both newspapers, I don't know if it's been covered on the public access television station or not, but yeah.
Okay.
So, all right.
You getting much feedback?
Virtually all the feedback I've gotten has been positive. I know that Chuck Polacco had some concerns, but it seemed to be more about what we were just raising, about questions of whether it had been publicized. And like I said, it's been publicized as much, if not more, than most things we do. And, you know, I know Chuck, so I'm happy to sit down with him and talk about it if he's interested.
I think a congressional candidate saw it and was interested in it, right?
Well, that's right. And so it's also, there's going to be a forum before this at the public library, 5:30 to 7 o'clock. Pat Ryan is sponsoring a town hall on this issue. So, you know, I'm not sure how, the focus is on the town hall and the issue. And I think it's kind of, you know, it's not a specific political event that he's running. Do you have something to say?
Can I just remark on your public comment? And I would hope that the council would support public access and do a lot more with that, so that information can be on public access
Oh, yes.
for the
We're gonna
residents.
start recording more stuff, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
This in regard to that, that's the city library tomorrow?
that's
Yeah.
right.
City library at 5:30. 5:30. All right.
And that's a town hall, so it's open to anybody who wants to come. There will be some brief presentations at the very beginning. So that'd be a great place for people to come and talk about this in a different kind of way than, public speaking here at the Common Council.
Thank you.
All right,
All right.
okay, 82, adopting the Ulster County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan.
This is basically a compliance issue. The state required us to do this, basically. And so Chief Brown spent many hours and has a document that thick. He said if anyone wants to see the entire thing, but basically this just puts us in compliance with the state regarding hazard mitigation that we have a plan in place. Basically, is what it's in a nutshell.
You have the hiring ready to do that.
Okay, here.
No.
Everybody good with that one?
Thank you, Chief.
You want to see the plan? Okay, now we get into the heavy stuff here, at least for one resident.
You should
The heavy
send us a
stuff.
copy and we can look at it.
Resolution 83.
You're on, Steve.
Oh, baby.
Permits.
I got one brief moment in the sun here, huh?
Well, that's good. You use that date
This is
for
for
tonight. That's tonight's.
She has not returned my
That's
calls.
Sunday
So
morning.
All right, so when
I
we don't have,
don't think we should,
No.
can we take this out? She hasn't returned my calls, I haven't gotten any.
we don't have a
information.
permit number and expiration date.
No,
The
I mean, I
has
could
not
try
responded
again
to Rita's
tomorrow.
request.
before, I don't know if that would be too late or not, no.
Well, because it's on the docket now, what's the procedure if we're not going to look at something? Do we have to do that in the meeting tomorrow night?
Well, you could,
We could move to table it, right?
yeah.
And hopefully she'll play before.
Refer it back to committee.
And
Refer it
then
back
should
to-
I get the information before
It
council
would be
meetings?
fine.
You need it for tomorrow, you can just.
What are you waiting
If
for?
not, then
Waiting
we
for
refer
her
it
to
back.
return my call.
If you can give me her name, I might be able to find out.
She hasn't provided a permit number or expiration date for her
Okay.
handicap car.
I bet he might have.
Thank you, Paul.
So if we don't get the info, we'll refer it back to committee.
Correct.
So, do you want to do the referring back to committee, or do you want to do it? What do we handle that?
Doesn't matter, you can.
And you can second it.
She might have it and not have to be referred back.
That's true.
Girl, you might get that info.
Right, but if you have the information, we'll go ahead and vote.
Yeah.
Great.
Something you can't.
So the next item is the second reading for local law number 2, repealing chapter 390.
In this date.
It's 84.
I'm looking at the wrong page.
Give me my shining moment. Give me my shining moment here, man. Come
Approving
on.
the fiscal year
Yeah.
community development block grant.
Yeah.
All right, Tony, tell us about it.
And so, we obviously went through and we had some public meetings, several public meetings, people coming in that met the committee and the council discussing what they wanted to use the money for and how much they were looking for. And so we had 2 public meetings on that. And then council made the recommendations, which was sent and forward to the mayor, who came back with just some minor changes and not a lot. And this, if you look at the last page, and I'm not gonna go through it line item by line item.
Sure.
And you can see there what the CD advisory board recommendation was, what the mayor's recommendation was, and then what the council members that serve on that board, which is Andrea, Jeffrey, William, Rita, and myself, right? William, I'm giving it the proper name. And that's what we did, the recommendations. I haven't heard anything, Brandon, so I'm assuming this is okay, all right? So I didn't receive anything or hear anything about the mayor not liking the recommendations that we made, so that is the final right there.
Well, then, we amended,
We amended, so I haven't heard anything,
so he's fine with
So
that.
you cut the cloth to fit.
I caught what?
You cut the cloth to fit.
Yes, yeah. So that's the recommendation for another year.
If I could add.
Yes, William.
This is the, thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, this is such a difficult thing, as you know, every year to cut out some of these programs, because I gotta say, being part of this process is one of the most positive things that we go through. At least I go through, I shouldn't say we, I don't wanna lump anyone else in here, but there's so many good things going on, there's so many volunteers here, and these are just, this is just a portion of it. I mean, there's just so much happening in the city of Kingston, and something to be proud of for a lot of people that we all know and are associated with that are particularly involving, the youth and trying to make the generation of Kingston a lot better. And I think a lot of these programs are kind of geared towards that. We had a strong focus in that direction. So it's something to be proud of. We're citizens.
Great, so would the two of you and anybody else on the committee be ready to discuss that tomorrow night? To trumpet that? Because I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could do it.
A lot of times people...
Yeah, I was really happy to be a part of this process. And truth be told, prior to sitting in on this and having to go through all this, I would criticize the budget every year. And so, but until I was able to sit, go through
Now you
it,
can.
and see what the obstacles were, and you want to fund everybody, but you just can't.
Correct, and I, being the same as, being on the board, but not on a committee, and, being an outside person, not knowing really what goes through and how many people are coming, that apply for money. And it was, like Bill saying, I think everybody else is echoing, and that's on this board, eye-opening, that you see all these great programs, that you only had so much money, and you're trying to stretch. I mean, I came in with a piece of paper here, like, we can buy this, we can do all that, and it's not always that easy, but I appreciate you guys being on that board with me, and
Yeah, and even the people who were competing against each other were just singing each other's praises. It was really,
right.
Just a real positive.
Did you want to say anything before? No, okay. Yeah, I just want to remember here, but, so, and, some people that we didn't get recommendations for, then the mayor found some money, made some changes, adjustments, and to, some of the city programs, and to allocate some money for, in this particular legal service here, and, so she found out the last meeting that one of her programs was awarded some money, so.
Great, so if there's specific stories about any of these groups who are going to get some money in one of these programs, feel free to bring that up also.
Legal services in Hudson Valley, $9,000. Wasn't that zeroed last year?
Correct.
Yeah.
Both, yeah.
It was zero this year.
Yes.
Both programs.
$9,000.
There's two different programs.
Two different ones.
Oh, yeah.
Their outreach program received $9,000. The outreach program.
Okay.
So some of the committee and members will speak tomorrow. Ready?
Great.
Okay. So that is that.
Well,
I
we've got
appreciate
the second
Brenda's
reading.
input in this.
Great, so everybody's okay with that, right? Does anybody have any comments? Anybody want to take up Rita's position of being the critic?
I'm no longer a critic. Yes, I've been converted.
All right. So, local law 3, common council, this is repealing chapter 160 related to bicycles. This would be an example of the local government removing an onerous restriction on the people of Kingston.
Because it's not being followed anymore. Oh, that's.
No, it's like it's been draconian.
Okay.
People were like, no, exactly.
And just in time for the new bike shop to open.
It's time to do bike stop and
We'll all be
the
cropping
real,
up now that this law's on.
the real string.
This is first reading.
This is the first reading.
This is second reading. I love it's first reading.
No, this is the first.
Oh, wait.
Second reading is the other one.
I'm sorry.
Right on how to.
Second, that's the first, I'm sorry.
Dry cleaner?
Excuse me, I skipped over something. So that's the first reading of the bicycles, so there won't be any action on that. But there's repealing chapter 390, vehicles and traffic of the code of the city of Kingston. And I don't seem to have a,
By last month.
That was, we had the first reading last, that's a lot of change.
oh, right. Everybody clear on that one then?
No.
not correct, because you keep.
We're in the process, this had to do ultimately with the fees that are charged when people refuse to pay parking fines,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so we were wanting to change it from a law to an ordinance so that in the future, we can change it more quickly as circumstances suggest.
Right, and then the following, next month, we'll actually address the actual issue. This was just changing it to an ordinance.
Right,
Next month, and
so there might be another, right,
So
so
this
we'll
is the second reading.
right, we will pass the ordinance next time. Everybody clear on that one? Questions, issues, concerns?
No.
All right, in that case, we will consider this meeting adjourned.
See everybody tomorrow.
Great to see everybody. Looking forward to see you tomorrow.